Let's return now back to the politics of the day, and Andrew Clennell is with me. Andrew, you were focusing on the weekend about this issue of hate speech. It was a big focus today already by the Deputy Prime Minister with a show of solidarity when he visited the school Mount Scopus in Melbourne, where there was anti-Semitic graffiti plastered on that wall of that school. Appalling situation.
It feels like it's going to go through Cabinet today, doesn't it? This proposal, which appears to, which the government's confirmed, involves criminal penalties for acts of so-called hate speech. But the impression I get is it will be jail. The argument is the current laws, there's civil penalties and they're never enforced. But the government obviously believes it needs to do something outside what it was planning with this religious discrimination bill, which it can't get the opposition's agreement on. It can't get support for. So it's kind of hiving this out. And I spoke about this with the Communications Minister on Sunday Agenda yesterday, and she indicated it was coming forward. She wouldn't actually declare the penalties, but she said that protest at the Opera House with that disgraceful language against Jewish people, that could be the subject of charges. Have a listen.
We make it clear that as a government, we will not tolerate the kind of hatred and abuse on the basis of people's race or religion. So your viewers can be very assured that we are operating as a proper functioning cabinet government. We identify gaps based on evidence. We identify where there needs to be further penalties in place and where they need to be strengthened, and we're determined to do that. And this should be above politics.
All right, so that incident outside the Opera House where people are yelling F the Jews, would that be subject to this sort of charge potentially?
Potentially, because if that satisfied the criteria for hate speech, then this would operate in any scenario.
What sort of penalties are being looked at for that?
I can't reveal those at the moment. These are under active discussion as we finalise these laws.
A jail, is it?
I cannot reveal that because we're under active discussion at the moment.
Michelle Rowland there on Sunday Agenda. The other thing is, Andrew, and it's not totally separate to it. I know there are different issues at play, but the social media question is all part of this, isn't it? As, you know, whether it be radicalisation or inappropriate material, the government's trying to grapple with standards there too.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it looks like we're ready for a blizzard of attempts at regulation, really, Kieran. Whether it's the misinformation bill the government says it can't get the opposition support on, or now they're looking at something that's been the subject of a News Corp campaign and something the New South Wales Premier Chris Minns has talked about, age verification technology and age bans on social media and other material for perhaps under 16s, perhaps under 15s. They haven't determined that yet. So Michelle Rowland confirming this as well. It does feel a bit like the horse has bolted. You've got probably every under 16-year-old on social media now. But Michelle Rowland argued here to me, well, the alternative is to do nothing, and we believe we have to have a crack at this.
I think there should be age limits on social media. I have a personal view that minors are very susceptible, and I know from my own experience, we know that within those ages of, say, 13 to 16, they are vulnerable ages for development. But again, a lot of the research is in on this, but a lot of opinion is out at the moment on how this can actually be implemented.
Is the horse already bolted here? I mean, you've probably got every under 16-year-old on social media, so how do you turn that around?
We are in probably the second generation of digital natives. But Andrew, the counterfactual is to do nothing. And this government is determined to make the internet safer, to make social media safer.
Now, Parliament's back tomorrow. You'd expect a big focus on the migration debate in the wake of the budget week. That was one of the key themes.
So both sides think they have ammunition. The opposition's probably got the better ammunition. Let's face it, that's a migration detainees scandal. The government believes that there's some holes in the opposition's promise to cut net migration, but the opposition will think, well, we're on a winner saying we're doing it, no matter what the exact numbers were. It is unclear. I mean, we revealed here that it was a cut in net migration to 160,000. Peter Dutton, the day after his budget reply speech, confirmed that for the first year. That's from 260,000. And in his budget reply speech, he talked about the cut in permanent migration by 25%. But we haven't seen a policy document. We didn't even see a press release outlining these numbers. And that's why there's still a bit of confusion with them, which I still think exists after the Shadow Treasurer's appearance on the program yesterday.
Peter Dutton has already talked about that first year where we'd see a reduction of around 37% in the NOM, as it's called, the net overseas migration, and then that would move to the 25% reduction, the quarter below where it is today.
160,000 the first year. What does it uptick to the second year, roughly?
Well, Andrew, I've just been through the numbers. 37% in the first year, moving to 25% and somewhere in the middle in the second year. And that is the pathway to making sure that we get that balance right between immigration and housing.
Mr Taylor, has the opposition done any sort of numbers on what the policy to cut net migration by 100,000 a year would cost the budget and the economy?
All the work we do, all the policies we announce, we put through the PBO and we work through that with them very closely, and we will continue to. We're confident that the package of policies that we announced on budget and reply night is revenue neutral. It's going to be positive for the budget.
How can it be revenue neutral when you're cutting 100,000 from the net migration? Can you explain that to me?
Different immigrants have different impacts on the budget. And this is a very, very important point. We have said that we're getting the refugee and humanitarian intake back to the levels they were at under the previous government, and that's appropriate.
So it's a big cut they're talking about to the refugee program, but still, if you just cut by 37% the net migration in this country and you're saying it's revenue neutral, I don't know about that. I do think tomorrow question time, it's going to be pretty heated. Things are ramping up. We're well and truly in that pre-election period now, Kieran, and I think you've made this point before that the PM saying he's going full term, but when is full term? Is the end of this year still sort of near enough the election timing to be full term, or early next year, even before the WA election? I think the election timing is far from settled.
Yeah, indeed, Andrew. I think couldn't agree more with you on that. Thanks. We'll talk to you soon.